Welcome back, everybody, to the CET Sports High School Basketball Wrap-Up Show. Brian Roth back with you with a couple of guys that watched a ton of high school basketball this year, Marty Cesario and Cory Lopez. Start with 4A girls. Cory, 4 in a row for the Broomfield Eagles. I know you have kind of a unique perspective on this. You covered those Lamar Savages back in the mid to late 90s when they won 4 straight.
Yeah, it was really something to see. Something special. You just don't realize how tough it is to do. I mean, you think of Brett Hartshorn and Diane Dittburner from way back in the day. Now it seems like in the late 90s, from 95 through 98 with that run over Pueblo South, and they beat Harrison as well in those state championships. For Broomfield to do this, though, I mean, a totally different team. There's only a couple of girls on there. Sarah Hicks is one of them that can actually share in all 4 of those. But really, and I know Brian and Marty, you guys have seen all different kinds of games, but the specialness that was to this, these guys were unstoppable last year and pretty unstoppable this year too. Only 1 loss coming out for Broomfield.
Yeah, and I don't know if anybody expected them to have the success that they did here this year in the amount of talent that they lost, but Marty, here they were in Boulder again.
Yeah, that was kind of my point that I was bringing up during the game, when we're talking about, the historical legend, the folklore that they could have possibly established here was, this squad could take 4. They're tired of hearing about it as a program because, you know what, hey, okay, we got it. Yeah, we won 3. But this is also a squad because of the turnover and everything. They were the ones that didn't really have a lot of favor behind them. People thinking they can get it done, surely they did. Not only Sarah Hicks, but Autumn Chase. Can you imagine if you were a girl, an athlete, that you could go through high school, the rest of your lives going, you know what, all during high school, we never ended with a loss, period.
Yeah, congratulations to Mike Kroll and those Broomfield Eagles. An unbelievable run for them. And can they do it again next year? We'll certainly wait and see on that. All right, to Class 5A. And for the first time since 1999, we were guaranteed a state champion, not from the Continental League. It seems so strange to say that it's not Thunder Ridge in the championship game, that it's not Islands Ranch, that it's not Regis, who happened to be the defending state champion. And Heritage was the only team out of the league. They finished 5th this year. That was in the Final Four. But it was Denver East, Cory Lopez, and how about that? And congratulations to Dwight Berry and those East Angels. I don't think anybody, certainly at the start of the year, did not think that they were going to be the team to raise the Golden Ball.
No, I think it was nice that they could go through Highlands Ranch and beat them, and then beat the rest of the teams that they needed to beat. I think Coach Berry did a great job this year. You're playing against different types of competition. They played some good non-conference coming in. You could kind of see when they faced off, you could see in some of the box scores that I took a look at earlier out of the season, you went, well, that's a pretty good team. But you know what? I couldn't get myself to say that Highlands Ranch wasn't going to be there. I didn't want to be the guy that was going to be wrong again, and here they were. So it was impressive to see not only Denver East, but the rest of the teams jumping into the Final Four, and impressive that Heritage got there as, you said, the number 5 team in the conference.
And the funny thing about Denver East, really throughout the entire state tournament, once you got to that grade 8 portion of the tournament, they were really the underdog. To Marty, going into the 5A state championship game, they were the underdog going against Jamie Carey and those Legacy Lightning. I think there was a lot of people that walked into the Coors Event Center that said, listen, it's been a great run for Denver East, but they're probably going to lose to Legacy. Not so.
Well, you got Legacy with all the pedigree behind them. I mean, Quincy Noonan, she's been following 3-4 brothers who've been playing hoops forever. Great point guard. And then, of course, Jamie Carey, she's definitely someone who's certainly well respected. Some people say the best basketball player on the girls level ever in the history of the state of Colorado. So you got that behind them, and Legacy was on a roll, just 1 loss coming out of a great league. But East, like Coach Berry said, if guards are playing, they can rock, because we know they got the bigs with Deidre Smith and, of course, Shea Kelly, and certainly that was the case. Samantha Sanders was a beast in that championship game, and then Raven Taylor just picking people, getting buckets, running down the floor. It was an amazing win, and I like the tie-in where Shea Kelly going to CU next year, and the last team to win it was Montbello with Nikki Weddle, and where did she go? CU. So, that was kind of a nice tie-in when you think of the historical.
Again, congratulations to both Broomfield and to Denver East. All right, let's move to the boys' side, and we'll start in 4A. And it was interesting as you had a couple of teams looking for back-to-back state championships, both Sierra and Regis. But those Sierra Stallions taking on another Pueblo team. And remember last year, they got down by as many as 20 points in the first half to Pueblo South. The Colts had come into the state tournament undefeated. Well, it was Pueblo East here this year, and this time it was Sierra that had the big lead. And Cory, they let that thing get away from them, but in the end, just too much experience, and the Sierra Stallions would take home yet another state championship.
You know, it was about Jamal Fountain, too. He scores the first 10 points of the game and then ends up scoring most of the last parts of the points in the overtime there, too. I was impressed because he was so quiet in the middle, just was consistent, things like that. We kind of keyed in on Cameron Williams as maybe the guy that's going to have to step up here, and he played okay. He was a beast on the boards. But it was Fountain that stepped up, the All-Stater that played really well for Otis Johnson. I'm impressed because they beat two Pueblo teams. South coming in, a lot of history behind them on both boys and girls side, and they beat them last year. They beat East this year, who really this was the first time they had the opportunity to be there. I was impressed by their showing. But again, Sierra, just a wild ride. Man, they get to the championship. You just never know what's going to happen. They did it two different ways in 2 different years.
Yeah, and as for Pueblo East, I'll tell you what, I really like their guard, Jordan Gregory. First time I'd had a chance to see him play. Marty, I know you saw him in the grade 8, but Jordan Gregory, only a junior is going to be back. He's a smooth basketball player.
Yeah, you know, and obviously a very bright kid too, even to the point where, you know, we were all noticing and perhaps jabbing a little bit indirectly. Yeah. Dude's wearing a glove in the warm-ups on his shooting hand, and, you know, the assistant coaches explained to me how that's kind of a technical thing where, you know, you take the glove off once the game goes on, you have a sensitivity. I'm like, really? He thinks about it that much, and that's how, you know, that's how into this game he is, you know, from a mental perspective and obviously from execution. Guy's on fire. Did it again. Tied the game to send it in overtime. He's got a very special thing about him. The light shines upon him. Jordan Gregory comes back next year, and certainly that makes Coach Dave Ryder real pleased.
On to the 5A game, and I know there was a lot of us that were thinking, there's no way you're going to top that 4A game, but 5A did their best. Regis looking to go back-to-back, and they'd be forced to overtime against Fairview. But the big story going into that game was Dara O'Neill. The guard sprained his ankle in the semifinal game against Aurora Central. Cory, he went, but I think it was pretty clear he was not 100%.
Yeah, and I kind of mentioned this, you know, I think to you guys leading into the 5A game. I mentioned it to Neil Devlin with the Denver Post too, you know, because everybody was watching to see if he'd come out in the warm-ups, and he didn't early on. He really just stayed off that ankle. I said, this is the opportunity for his brother Shane to step up, and he really did. I was very impressed. I mean, obviously Shane's going to be back for the next couple of years, so that's going to be really something for Frank Lee and for Fairview. I think for Dara, he gave it his best effort. Tough kid.
It's a staple of a Frank Lee basketball team. They all come out with intensity. They play very hard, and they were shot out of a cannon to start that game, but Regis, this is just too much depth, too much size, and the Regis Raiders would end up winning out.
For me personally, I think it was a showcase of, you know, and we hear a lot about Bud Thomas and the bigs, but the key, Joey Tazinski, the way he just closed down that game. After all the adversity they dealt with, I mean, all of a sudden Joey P. just, you know, started locking it down. That overtime, he scored 10 of the 13 points just with that smooth touch, taking people off the dribble, just looking straight at him, go, here it comes, and sinks it to, you know, really, I think, push Regis over the top to get their second straight title.
Yeah, congratulations to Ken Shaw and those Regis Raiders for another job well done. Well, guys, thank you so much. Appreciate your hard work all season long. For Marty Cesario and Cory Lopez, I'm Brian Roth saying so long. Thanks for watching high school basketball all season long here on CET. And as we close out the high school basketball wrap-up show, we'll get you some of the best plays of the year caught by our CET cameras. Enjoy.